and we have to talk about Aero because there's been so much done aerodynamically to this car.
Yeah.
How critical of the formula is that? Is getting front end grip from an Aero standpoint and rear grip from an Aero standpoint, and maybe everything in between in addition.
Right. I mean, it's incredibly important, and I think the thing that's what a lot of people don't understand is that it's very easy to say it has a splitter and the splitter fits within the rules. It has a wing and it fits within the rules. I mean, people see that and they immediately jump to that saying they need to do these things. But the difficulty with that is executing a splitter and a wing and Aero package that makes the car stick to the ground, that increases downforce, that doesn't overly affect drag.
Right.
Because it's very, I mean, especially again, starting off with this terrible aerodynamic shape here.
Right.
Hatchback is not good for the purposes of building a race car, especially for high speed.
Yeah.
It's very easy to make 600 horsepower, put all the aero on and go slower because you just destroy the top speed of the car.
Right.
And initially we had a very kind of basic understanding of how to do the splitter and the wing.
Yeah.
And then it started going into, working with other people that we know, again, all from a theoretical perspective because the car's never been in a wind tunnel.
Right.
But just to say, okay, we need to tweak the splitter angle to whatever degree in order to get the front to really, stick better.
Okay.
We need to tweak the wing angle and the height and the setback in order to reduce drag, but in order to still keep downforce going.
Yeah.
And then it's, okay, we need to look at different shapes of the leading edge of the splitter in order to increase speed of airflow under the car, as opposed to just having that flat plane that so many people have made of aluminite or something. Instead of trying to cut the air, you're trying to direct the air, and keep it smooth.
Smooth transition from the leading edge.
Right, and then even into the diffusers that are on the back of the splitter in order to try to focus on air exit now. So now you're not just focused on the air that's hitting the front, the leading edge of the car. Now you're focused on what that air is doing after it exits the leading edge. How does it interact with the rest of the car, both on the side? Where does that air go underneath the car, and what happens to it once it gets there? Right. And then what happens to the air as it exits the car? Also very critically important. So even in this situation, the placement of the exhaust specifically is done in order to interact with the diffuser in the wing.
And try to use that exhaust velocity.
Right. Trying to use the exhaust velocity to fill a void area in order to reduce drag.
So who did you work with to develop this package, or did you develop a lot of it in-house, or did you work with somebody outside?
It started with me kind of going through and doing, the stuff that I knew from my years of racing. And then there were some deficiencies that I was finding and some things that I wanted to change and do better. I don't have the technical know-how to work with carbon fiber in order to make like an inner foam carbon outer structure for this stuff. We've played around with it at the shop. We've never gotten that advanced. We do a lot of carbon repair work in the shop or splitters and things that get trashed in the process of racing. But we've never made like this splitter as complex of a design. So I worked with Professional Awesome. They were really, really great at helping me do some of the setup stuff when the Aero was more basic. And then we started working with Spage Sport up in Canada, which they have done some absolutely incredible Aero work for a lot of different cars. Yeah. We started working with Alex up there to say like, all right, Alex, I've got ideas. This is the stuff I want to do. How can we do it? Right. And it started off initially with the splitter. And the splitter is fantastic. It's a really, really cool design. Really awesome, like dual diffuser tunnels on each side. Just a great overall splitter design. Very, very stiff, yet very light for what it is. Right. And then it went into doing the wing. And he was saying, okay, it's like, I've got a wing profile that we can use that will be much more downforce with much less drag at much higher angles of attack. Okay. I'm like, great, let's try it. And then, initially we did it. We had it higher, when we started with it. And again, what we realized even in that is that was creating more drag than we needed. The wing was so efficient at creating downforce that we could actually dramatically lower the wing, get it closer to the car so that it was more in the airflow of the car, and still have the same levels of downforce, but with less drag. Right. So, last year versus this year, same wing, just in a different placement. It was at Mid-Ohio, I think, 8 miles an hour is the difference in top speed.
Faster. Wow, that's a big deal.
Huge deal. Yeah. So, I mean, it's honing the system, and then hopefully you'll see the floor that's on the car at some point. that was the last piece that we really did with him.
Okay.
Saying like, all right, I've got an idea for doing essentially a wing under the car in order to create a Venturi effect with tunnels that will fit within the rules of the class, but will help to really suck the car to the floor, or suck the car to the ground.
Like that is the last, like that is the hardest thing to do, like especially from a privateer's perspective or whatever. So like, yeah, to have gone to the point where you've got a fully formed floor of the car too, that's crazy.
And he did a fantastic job. And we had to send the car up to Canada in the middle of COVID. Which was not easy. Right. Trying to get it across the borders when they're like, why are you shipping a race car across borders? You have no reason to do that. I mean, the amount of pushback we got was incredible just trying to get the car into Canada. And then what he had to do was, I think, much more of a project than any of us thought. Sure. It ended up taking him a couple months to get this right. He had to make sacrificial molds in order to get this really complex 3D shape.
Wow.
And then people started to see him at the beginning of the season. And Jackie Ding, who also works with Spaceport, was really excited and called up Alex and was like, Alex, I need this floor. And Alex was like, nope, never doing it again. So there was just so much work. He's like, I'm never doing it again. It was just way too much of a headache.
Wow.
So we're really lucky and have to be very protective of this because it's the only one in existence.
Yeah.
Replicating it would not be easy.
For sure. Well, and as you're developing that Aero package, just maybe how important is it to have the ability to adjust and be flexible? Like with the rear wing, it's pretty easy to adjust the angle of attack.
Yep.
How important is it to have some kind of similar adjustment up front?
It is important, and we had to go through kind of a rebalancing for this event. This event has a really nasty bump that is kind of going as the track goes over a tunnel to get to the inner paddock.
This event being Grid Life Alpine Horizon.
At PPIR. Yep. It's got a really nasty bump, and we've seen this bump before. We've had some issues with bottoming out the splitter before, so we raised the entire car up.
Okay.
Kind of keeping the wedge that we wanted or keeping the rake that we wanted in the car that we have found works really well, but raised the entire thing up quite a bit in order to try to clear that bump, which then meant that we had to go back and readdress things like angle of attack on the wing, is it still where we want it? The angle of attack on the splitter, is that still where we want it?
Right.
All of that is adjustable and all of that feeds in. You don't do a whole lot with the splitter once you kind of get it set.
Right.
It's normally like get it set to a happy angle where it's working and just kind of leave it alone. The wing we adjust all the time in order to get that to do exactly what we want. Tune the balance.
Yeah.
And it's pretty interesting how it works because, it's working so well as a total system now that even just adjusting the wing, you feel an effect on the entire car, not just necessarily the rear. So we keep going up with the angle of attack in the rear in order to increase overall grip of the car. And eventually, as we get really high with that angle of attack, we'll start to notice where it's got too much grip in the rear of the car, and the front will start to wash.
Okay.
And then we back it off a little bit from there. But it really does work as an entire system now.
Yeah.